Okay, this is the Angel plugin for Talespire Hacker Edition. What we're going to discuss here is what happens behind the scenes, and this can be useful for two reasons. One, if you are having troubles, this information can be useful for diagnosing problems. And the other is if you are writing a plugin and want to cause things in Angel to happen, then this information will tell you how to do that. So we've got an asset here that has multiple morphs on it. And the way that Angel works is when you pull out an asset from the Angel library, you can see that it initially comes out as just a base with nothing showing. Technically, that's not true. Hidden within the base is a very, 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 very tiny Lord Ashes logo, because it does actually require some mesh in order for this to work. But for the most part, basically, it's an empty base. Now, when you place that asset onto the board, what happens is Angel remembers the last selection that you made in the Angel menu. It looks up that asset and then applies that asset to the base to make it look like whatever you selected. Now, in order to store that information so that when you load up the game, it's going to again appear there. And unlike the asset data plugin, which only stores things locally, well, it does distribute the changes to other players, but only if they're connected. So, for example, if a DM is making a new board and sets up a whole bunch of light plugins changes, the players won't have any of that because they're not connected at the time. So then when they join the game, the GM is going to be seeing a whole bunch of lights on the board, and the players are going to be seeing darkness. So that was a problem with the asset data plugin. And the way that Angel gets around this is it uses a property that's already in core Talespire that is already distributed by Talespire. So by writing this property, Talespire takes care of making sure that all the players get that information, either if they're connected or when they do connect. Previously, there was a plugin called the Stat Message plugin, which was used for a lot of plugins, and that used the asset's name. It hid it kind of so that it wouldn't be seen, but it used that space to store stuff. Now, we went away from that because a name property could in the future be cut down to a limited to a specific length, and if that's the case, we would be losing all that information that's hidden at the end of the name. So we went away from that and used Asset Data Plugin instead. But as I said, Asset Data Plugin has its own problems. So Angel ended up using the link. So if you're not familiar, assets can have a link, which is basically just a hyperlink that would normally pull up a browser with related information or something like that. So that's what Angel uses. Now, Angel attempts to keep any link that you may have there still working. So it basically adds on the rest of the information as like a query parameter, which in most cases should just be ignored by the browser, and it still would show your link. But that's where it hides its stuff. So the Angel plugin actually has a, let's call it an undocumented feature that allows you to look at the link, because if you go to here, it shows just a part of it and doesn't show the whole thing. So the Angel plugin has F2 by default, which not only allows you to display that whole link, but also to set it. So what you can see here is right now we don't actually have an actual link that would be going to a website. So there's nothing here. And then it appends the keyword asset bundle info. And then we have our secret sauce. So this is where Angel plugin basically writes information about your asset. So if we're talking about a regular creature or a aura or effect, what the package or information needs to be is the very first part is the full location of the asset bundle from which that asset is going to be loaded. Then that is followed by, yes, that's a long path usually. So then that is followed by a tilde, which in this input display it doesn't show those, but after this file name you can see it shows a little space here. That's actually a tilde. So then you have the prefab name, and then you have a tilde and a keyword that indicates what type of asset this is. So if you put creature over there, it will treat it as a creature, which means it will display on top of that empty base. If you have aura or effect, essentially it's the same thing. It's going to display on top of that base, but usually auras and effects are in conjunction with a creature. So your very basic angel asset is creature, and then on top of that you can have more entries separated by a ampersand sign to basically make it look like a query parameter in case this is actually a link. And then you can have, for example, the same format again. It's first the file name, tilde prefab, tilde type. So you could have, for example, aura or effect. Or if you are now using morphs, you can also have a type that is morph. So when I scroll over here, we can see that those disguises that we made for our gnome earlier, here Gnomish Maiden for example, are listed here, and they're listed with the keyword morph. So what morph tells Angel to do is it tells it that's information that I'm storing here, but don't actually display that asset. So you can see that every one of our disguises is listed here as morph. And what Angel does when you decide to cycle the morphs, all it does is it finds the current creature, replaces that kind with morph, and then the very next morph, it turns into creature. So basically, it just toggles which of those creatures or which of those shapes we want turned on by putting creature there, and the rest of them it turns to morph to ignore them. And that's basically how the morph function works. So what does that mean for you? Well, that means if you ever really need to get rid of all the morphs on a creature really quickly, easy to do. With the edit here, you can find the first creature, which in this case happens to be the first one here, and then you can remove everything else. And now when I apply this, it's going to see that the link has changed. Angel's immediately going to look at the character and rebuild the character. So now if I do that and apply, I would see that there are no more morphs for this character to have. I can do that right now. Now, if I hit my cyclomorphs, cyclomorphs, you can see there are no more morphs. So that's one thing. So that's a quick way to get rid of the morphs. The other is if the asset is not showing properly or something like that, you can have a look at the information to see which file and asset bundle it's pointing to, and that way you can double check if that file actually exists. And lastly, because this is just the ordinary link that's already used by Talespire, that means there are already functions for setting that link. It happens to be creature manager dot set link, and that means if you want to make a plugin that is going to apply shapes to a Angel asset or switch morphs or do any of that, add auras, add effects, remove those, it's very simple. All that plugin needs to do is write the contents to the link, and once it does that, that's going to immediately again cause Angel to see that the link changed and rebuild that asset based on the new link. So you can now have your rule set plugins adding different morphs or auras, whatever.